Computers and the internet are as much a part of our lives at Michigan State University as electricity or water. The cell phones and MP3 players that we take for granted today are thousands of times more powerful than the computers that used to fill entire rooms.
We've become way dependent on technology. I think we're so dependent on it that we don't really see how dependent we've become.
It's hard to imagine a world without these digital devices. But before 1957, there were no digital computers on Michigan State's campus. Researchers used slide rules and mechanical calculators to compute, a slow and tedious process. But the 1950s brought a new era of digital computing, and MSU's faculty told the administration MSU needs a digital computer. And so, over 50 years ago, MSU formed the Computer Laboratory, charging its young staff to build a digital computer for the growing university. MSU recruited Dr. Lawrence W. Von Tersch from Iowa State University to head our new computer laboratory. Our first computer would be named MISTIC, or Michigan State Integral Computer. MISTIC was based on the design of the University of Illinois computer ILLIAC, itself patterned on a design by the legendary Princeton mathematician John von Neumann. As Dr. Von Tersch studied ILLIAC, graduate students and technicians back in East Lansing prepared to build Michigan State's first digital computer. Our founders were very practical engineers. In fact, MISTIC was built on the 5th floor of the Computer Center for very practical reasons.
The first day I came around and looked at the possible sites in that building, the Red Cedar River was leaking into the bottom floor.
MISTIC began service in the fall of 1957. At first running just one 8-hour shift each day. Newspapers heralded the arrival of MSU's new computer. Headlines celebrated the new robot or mechanical brain. Of course, MISTIC was electronic, neither a robot nor mechanical. Descriptions weren't important. What was important was that MSU had its first digital computer.
Get your program and data on the paper tape and bring it to the operator, and the operator would read it in and wouldn't run, or wouldn't run right. So, you had to fix the program, which meant you had to change the paper tape, and there was no good way to change the paper tape other than just to, start over. Eventually, the person would get their program right, and the results, when they got results, they would be punched out on yet another paper tape. And they'd bring that paper tape into the next room. There was all kinds of equipment in there that would allow you to list your paper tape on a teletype machine. And people did that. And nobody that I know of, nobody ever complained about the process.
Researchers in many departments quickly signed up to use the much-needed new computer. Scientists in math, agricultural economics, chemistry, and other departments quickly began using MISTIC to solve problems that no one could have solved with a slide rule.
You had to conceive of it in terms of a computational problem, which means that you had some data you need to analyze, apply some functions to it, produce the output that you're interested in. But then you had to know something about the computer's operation itself and be able to write out the list of, they weren't called instructions those days, they were called orders. Like you're ordering this machine to do what you commanded it. And you would propose your problem to the computer in those terms. It was amazing, though, how fast the campus caught on.
Computing wasn't easy in those days. The computer ran only one program at a time, and its vacuum tube circuits often failed. Our earliest recorded log entry begins, MISTIC failed to operate. But when users met challenges, our staff was there to help them through. A young MSU student named Elizabeth Bushlin Unger assisted faculty researchers in writing programs. In 1958, she began to compile answers to some often repeated questions, our first FAQ.
To save time, I began to write out on what were ditto and then mimeograph. Finally remembered what purple and white was. Ditto sheets. And when someone would come up and ask, about something, and I'd just hand them a sheet.
By the early 1960s, computer use on campus had grown beyond the capacity of Mystic. A young and aggressive Minnesota company, Control Data Corporation, sold MSU its second digital computer, the CDC 3600. The world at large began to imagine what computers might accomplish. In 1967, MSU established its computer science department to accommodate the growing numbers of people who wanted to harness this technology. By the 1970s, thousands of students were taking computer classes every term. They crowded the computer center, programming their jobs on punch cards and waiting hours to see if their programs ran correctly. A few lucky users even began to use teletypes to interact with the mainframe, connecting over phone lines using acoustic couplers. These terminals printed results at a remarkable speed of 10 characters per second. Mainframes, although quite powerful for their time, had relatively little capacity. Personal computers today offer far more computing power, but the computer laboratory staff worked hard to get as much horsepower as the big iron had to give.
That was not only to make things run fast, try to squeeze the last bit out of the last cycle out of the mainframe, but also to keep it up and running, because crashing was not a nice thing, and it happened frequently.
As MSU expanded, our computing capacity also grew. No one could have predicted the scale or magnitude of growth that the coming years would bring. In 1966, MSU joined with the University of Michigan and Wayne State in a visionary partnership to connect the university's mainframe computers. On July 8, 1971, the new Merit Network carried the first data communication between Michigan State and the University of Michigan. While universities began to connect their mainframes, computing technology continued to get smaller, cheaper, and faster, to the point where individuals began to purchase their own personal computers, or PCs. But early PCs were expensive. In 1983, the MSU Computer Store opened its doors, bringing the university community this new technology at affordable prices. MSU also made personal computers accessible to students by building the first microcomputer laboratory on campus. Across campus, this increasingly widespread access to computing provided exciting new opportunities. Just as Michigan State researchers had found value in connecting mainframes across the Merit Network, personal computer users needed a better way to quickly and easily exchange information. And so, the university began to build its campus network.
Well, the network has been increasingly important over the years. In the early days, it was primarily a research tool, but within the past 6-8 years, though, it really has become mission critical to both educational and business functions at MSU.
In 1984, MSU's campus connected for the first time to the internet. That first internet connection ran at 56 kilobits per second. Fast for the time, but a fraction of the speed of DSL or cable modem connections today. We were wise enough to register the internet domain msu.edu early on.
We beat out Missouri State and Mississippi State and a couple others that might have laid claim to msu.edu.
Over the years, our campus network and connection to the rest of the world have evolved, moving from copper to fiber, allowing us to share data at thousands of times faster than previous speeds. Today, the Michigan Lambda Rail connects the MSU campus to Detroit, Ann Arbor, and Chicago, allowing researchers to share massive data sets and collaborate in real time at multi-gigabit speeds. To provide the power to process these massive data sets and crunch computationally intensive problems, researchers can also take advantage of MSU's High-Performance Computing Center. Here, just as with Mystic, experts in computing collaborate with faculty from across campus to harness this processing power.
It's millions all over the place, million times faster, million times bigger, million times smaller. It's just so enormously different that even though I've looked at it a lot, I don't think I totally get just how different it is sometimes.
In our early days, we helped a few dozen scientists perform cutting-edge research. Back then, we were lucky if MSU's one computer, Mystic, ran for more than 2 hours at a time. But the computing pioneers who built and used Mystic were thrilled with what that first computer delivered. They could finally solve problems that would have required many years to solve otherwise.
Nobody that I know of, nobody ever complained about the process because, as compared to what? There was nothing compared to, and the payoff was tremendous.
As the needs of the university have evolved, so have we as a service unit. In 2004, it was time for a name to reflect our core mission. And so the computer laboratory became known as Academic Computing and Network Services, or ACNS. Today, we assist over 50,000 people, an entire university of computer users. In our earlier years, we built computer hardware. Today, we build and deliver services. Tens of thousands of students use MSU's course management system every day to complete their assignments. Over 1 million email messages flow through mail.msu.edu daily, and over 1,700 computers are available for the MSU community to use in computer labs across campus. Every day, the university depends on the resources we provide.
It's certainly gotten more difficult to meet the expectations of our user base. But I guess I would put it in 3 categories. The first thing we need to do is figure out what they want. And then once we've done a good job of figuring out what services they want, provide them in a high-quality fashion, reliable, robust. And then third, of course, to tie it all together is the support structure.
When users need help, their first point of contact is the ACNS Help Desk. The Help Desk answers customer questions, refers problems to those who maintain core services, and follows through to be sure that problems are resolved.
We strive to reduce the calls to the help desk by working with the service sponsors to ensure that their systems are working properly before they're released to the public, so then they don't have to call the help desk for assistance.
The questions they come up with are now so much broader than they were way back when. You need so much more knowledge to be a consultant than you did back then, that it really puts a burden on the consulting staff.
It became pretty clear in talking with some of the people about how we could improve the services. We needed to do a better job of communicating both internally and externally. So we formed the communications team again. This time we tied it together with our training team. So now it's the training and communications team. They're the face in a lot of ways to the campus. Web pages and other publications that we put together, and also have put together some internal communications like a newsletter and some other things that we're working on.
ACNS is really a great place to work. The people are very friendly and they're very open to new ideas.
I've been very encouraged over the last several years on how ACNS has been kind of evolving. We used to work together directly within different groups, but we've been coming together to cooperate a lot more across groups within ACNS, and that has really helped us step up and provide some better solutions for our customers.
As the university community has evolved, Academic Computing and Network Services has been a partner. In the face of rapid progress and massive change, ACNS holds at its core a crucial spirit of collaboration. In the 1950s, our predecessors created a revolutionary computing service, doing whatever it took to meet the needs of a groundbreaking group of research scientists. Today, Academic Computing and Network Services once again supports faculty who continue to study the hardest questions. With a proud heritage of service and a dedicated staff, ACNS stands ready to meet the computing and networking needs of these and all of our users, as they in turn work to advance knowledge and transform lives.